Hi, I'm Dr. Arjan and welcome to my kitchen. In today's video, we're going to make a cooling, calming, iced sun tea for the summer. So we're in New Mexico. This is 2020. We're in the middle of July and COVID's going on and there's a lot going on in the world. Tensions are running high. People aren't being so nice on social media. And here in New Mexico, the temperatures are incredibly high. We're at 100 degrees, which we normally never have in the summer here. Usually we get rain and it cools things off, but it's incredibly high. So we're closing the windows down at like 9 o'clock in the morning. And last night we opened them and it actually made our house hotter. So we're trying to do things to keep cool. And so we know when temperatures run high and also tensions run high, it affects our mood, it affects how we feel, it affects our sense of joy, our sense of being able to function well in the world, because a lot of the frustration and anger that builds up, or this kind of feeling of hopelessness, and actually the physical heat, it affects our liver. Like in Chinese medicine, the heat affects the liver. And if the liver is already hot and it's not detoxifying the way it should, it creates more heat in the blood, more heat in the body. And so it affects our emotions also. So one of the things we like to do in our family, or I like to do first thing in the morning, I get up when it's still cool outside and I make this herbal sun tea. And what I caution people against, when you're making this tea, you don't want to include black tea. In the South where I come from, sun tea is usually like a nest tea, like it's a black tea. And it's really good at sweet tea with sugar in it. But this is an herbal sun tea. That black tea will actually affect your adrenals and your kidneys and your liver in a negative way. So it actually can lead to more anger, frustration, and that kind of heat that builds up. When you kind of feel that anger, it's building up, that's heat in your body. So we want to do things to help cool and to mitigate that heat in your system. So I kind of concocted this. For years I made this, and this is one of our favorite teas, Celestial Seasonings. I'm not doing a commercial for them, but I just am super grateful for them. This is their Redzinger tea, and it has hibiscus in it, rose hips, lemongrass, peppermint, orange peel, and lemon verbena. And for years, I would just put like 6 to 8 tea bags in like a gallon-sized jar. And I would do that, put it out in the sun. And then over the years, I kind of developed into adding fresh mint because we have fresh mint in our garden. So I started adding that. And then I would add lemon to that. And so that was like our drink at home during the summer. And my son's birthday is in August, so he always wanted this with apple juice. That was like our punch. And so over the years, I started developing my own tea because I have this, but I also was noticing more of the herbal properties, like awakening more to the healing properties of a lot of these flowers and herbs. So I started getting bulk of all of these. I was in the Ivory Coast a few years ago and they have hibiscus tea everywhere. It's like they do hibiscus with ginger, which I think is amazing. So I bought dried hibiscus flowers. This is dried hibiscus here. And so I really got into it while I was there, and it makes the tea, if you see my tea here, it's this glorious color of red, which to me is just so nourishing and calming and beautiful as it is. So I started adding my own hibiscus flowers, and then when I was in Mexico in March, our Uncle Lenny, who lives there, he had hibiscus tea in the mornings, and he just added a little bit of stevia. And that was a cold tea, so I got into that. And in the grocery stores, they have it in these huge bins in the produce section, dried or partially dried hibiscus flowers. So I bought a bunch and we were having them while we were there. And while I was there, my back completely spasmed up. I was literally flat on my back in bed. I ended up going to a curandera while I was down there. And my Spanish is so-so, but I got from her orina, which I thought was liver, but then I finally figured out she was saying my kidneys, like what does my urine look like? And so she was asking me how were my kidneys functioning, how much was I drinking? And I realized that I wasn't drinking enough. And then she suggested that I have hibiscus tea because it helps support the kidneys, but I believe what she was saying is also detoxify the kidneys. And when I looked it up, it actually is a liver detoxifier. So that heat that I was talking about, when the liver gets full and congested, we need to do things to help cool it off, to detoxify and decongest it. So hibiscus flower is one of these. So I love it because it's beautiful, it tastes good, it gives this kind of tart, a little bit bitter taste to the tea, but it makes it super beautiful. And I feel like it's really good for our kidneys also. So we need that along with the liver detoxification. So I'm going to go through my overall recipe, what I do, and I'm just going to show you what I do. And if you look at my email that I sent out, if you go to drarjan.com, you'll see everything written out for you, the recipe. So you can go there. I'll put the link in the YouTube in the notes in there. So this is almost a gallon. It's not quite a gallon. My gallon pitcher just broke yesterday, so I had to make do with this. But this is, I think this is 2 quarts here. So when my family's all together, we'll go through a gallon probably in about 2 days during the heat. My son comes back from working at the greenhouse and he's hot. My daughter's wilting like a flower. And my husband's been on the computer and I'm just hot. So we all have this. So that's for 4 of us. If there's just 1 or 2 of you at home, I would suggest just do something like this. You can get a 2-quart jar, whatever jar you use, just make sure you don't want like an old apple juice jar or something where the neck is really small because you can't get the herbs out. So make sure you have a wide neck here. So I filled up and I've used reverse osmosis water here. You can use filtered water, whatever kind you want. And in my recipe, and the one I have on my email is for a gallon. This is going to be, I think this is about a half a gallon here. So I'm going to show you this. And if you're looking at my recipe, I've noted it in my email also. So I have my measuring spoons. And if you're in a different country, we're the only ones who use this sort of measurement. But if you're in the US, this is a tablespoon measurement. So if you're somewhere else in the world, I apologize. I don't know what your measuring system is, but something about like this. And this is not an exact science. It's whatever you want. I'm just doing this so I just use pinches and whatever I feel like I need that day. So I always use a lot of hibiscus flowers. And what I wanted to mention here, I order all these in bulk. I get these big bags of them. You can also go like to your local health food store. Like we have Natural Grocers, it's now called, and they have them in Ziploc bags, and they're pretty inexpensive. So you can get them there. I know Whole Foods has things, of course they're more expensive, but whatever you have, if you can, Vitamin Cottage is great, or it's Natural Grocers now, they're great. But I get mine from Frontier Herbs. I just order big bulks. I have a wholesale account because I'm a retailer and I do that, but you can set up your own account through them also. But if you don't want to go that route, I just take I got these when I was in Mexico. They're little tea bags of hibiscus tea. So, and I had bought these while we were there to make it easier, but you can just open it up. I'm just going to do this for you. I'm just opening it up. And if there's paper on it, obviously I'm going to take that off. Ugh, usually it's easy. And just throw that in there. Or if you want to get the Celestial Seasonings, Redzinger, this has a lot of the same herbs I have here, and it's just kind of expensive after a while, but I'll throw again like 6 or 8 tea bags in here and make that super simple. And the other thing is, I have all these tea. This is like my tea box, my tea basket. So I have all these different teas in here, and I'll just look through like this. There's this throat comfort tea from Yogi Tea, and it's got licorice root, fennel, cherry bark, cinnamon. So if I want to get you can make any kind of herbal tea you want. Like if you just want to get tea bags from the store, go look at the boxes and look at the ingredients and put those in your water. And you can make a mix of it. Sometimes I'll just have like a ginger lemon tea bag and throw that in there. You can kind of play around with this, whatever you like. But right now I'm, for myself and my family, super focusing on, I have a couple kids with nervous stomachs, so I want to make sure I'm giving them things, and I'll go through all these herbs to help with their nervous stomachs. We're working on the anxiety and the tension and the heat and cooling that nervous system, because when the nervous system gets exhausted or there's too much information coming in, at a certain point our nervous system kind of pops, and then that's when things start getting scrambled and we start making mistakes. We get angry more easily. Depression, anxiety can set in. So right now I'm working on mitigation and also just keeping things soothing and calm for everybody. And I also offer this, every single person who comes to my house, I hand them an iced glass of this herbal tea to give them. Everybody's super happy, and I offer, do you want stevia, plain, or with a little bit of apple juice? So I let people decide what they want. So first off, this is Linden Flowers. I just think they're so beautiful. I was reading about them, and they're actually trees that grow all over. The article I was reading, they said they grew them in London. You see them growing down the streets in London. I like this, and the reason I picked it up was because I was reading something about it helps with depression and anxiety. This is another nervous system calming plant and herb. So I added this, and it's also this very sweet, very soft herb. When you start working with plants and herbs, you start getting a feeling for what different plants do. And this one can be, all these herbs that I have here are good for kids, they're good for adults. You can even just make a tea just with linden flower just by itself. And because this is a smaller jar. I'm just doing a little bit here. Usually I take a handful for this big one right here, but I'm just doing a small amount. This is chamomile flowers, and most of you have had chamomile tea. This is one I had gotten, not this one. I have some that I bought when I was in Kenya. They grow chamomile there, so here it is. So I know that it's all over the world. So this is what I got in Kenya. If you want to get a tea bag, or if you already have one at home, just throw that in there. You don't have to have the flowers. I bought this one because I was, again, helping someone with some depression and anxiety that they were experiencing, and also a couple people who have nervous stomachs. So this is a very calming one. I like all of this tea. This is a good one again in the afternoons, and again at night. If this is something you want to have at night, chamomile is known to be a good sedative and calming and relaxing herb. So I'm just doing about a tablespoon in here of that. This is lemon balm, and this is dried. I have 2 plants outside fresh, but I don't have enough to put in my teas all summer long, so I'm waiting until that grows. But lemon balm is just this amazing little plant too. It's also for people who get also nervous stomachs. If you're someone who kind of feels like there's kind of death looming around the next corner, or this kind of hopelessness or disaster looming around the next corner, and maybe it affects your stomach, or you're eating something and your stomach just starts hurting all of a sudden, lemon balm is great for that. So again, a nervous system tonifier, soother. If your nerves around your stomach are just kind of irritated, and kind of anytime you eat or think about something, your stomach automatically tightens up and hurts, or you have maybe some kind of reflux, lemon balm is great for that. It's just one of these, I just love this. I kind of fell in love with it last year. I bought the plants for some reason and finally learned what they do, and I just love it so much. Another really sweet one is rose. I have rose buds here. You can also get rose hips, which is what they have in the Redzinger tea. But roses, to me, they're very calming. They're very sweet. They add this very like if you think of roses, there's this softness to them. And so I add this because I feel like also the energy of the roses helps to actually calm and soothe as well. And it creates a sweetness in the flavor of the tea. And I'm just gonna do about a tablespoon. They're a little hard to measure out with my tablespoon, but I like them. They add more pink to the color. And also if you do rose hips, they're really, really high in vitamin C. And as far as we don't wanna say identical, but bioavailable, vitamin C, rose hips has one of the highest amount of vitamin C, lemon and rose hips. So if you do that, that's going to be a good one for this also. And I was also reading in the Medical Medium series, he talks about rose hips. If you're feeling like you're under psychic attack, like if someone's sending you negative vibes, rose hips are a really good one energetically and emotionally to be able to fend off that negative emotion. So this is a good one. I've been playing around with all these flowers with teas, but also bringing the flowers and the herbs into my house and keeping them around us. So that's another one. I already have the hibiscus tea bag in here, but I'm just going to show you. I'm just going to put a little bit in here. It doesn't need that much, but I wanted to just add a little bit because it's so pretty. So if you can see the top of that, it's just so pretty. I just love it. And the last couple things, this is yarrow. This is a plant. I have this growing in my yard. It's a weed actually. Well, we didn't plant it as a weed, but you'll see it out in the forest a lot or along the sides of the roads. I wrote 4 pages on it the other day. I was researching it. And I know it's really good. Like warriors used to keep the leaves, they would grind it up into a powder, keep it with them when they were on the battlefield. So that the Latin name for this is actually Achilles, like Achilles the warrior. And the story goes that he was dipped in it in a bath of yarrow when he was a baby, except for his heels. And in mythology, his heels were the only vulnerable place for him. So the legend goes that because he was dipped in yarrow, he was totally invulnerable to anything except at his heels, which is why we have our Achilles heel, which is like our weak spot in our own lexicon. So with yarrow, I have some drying, but you can use the flowers, you can use the leaves, and I'm just going to put a few of the leaves. Actually, they're really bitter, but I'm just going to put a few of these into my tea today. And I like this because it helps stop the bleeding, which is why warriors used to use it and keep it on their person at all times, because if they were cut, they could put the powder in their mouth, wet it, and then put the poultice on their cuts. And so it stopped the bleeding. I've had my own personal experience with this. It also helps with lacerations, any kind of like leaky gut, ulcerations in the gastrointestinal system. It's also an anti-anxiolytic, so if you're experiencing anxiety, it's a good one. Something I thought this was great. Anything that's bitter, it helps bring up the stomach juices. Like it helps support the stomach and functioning better. And same with the pancreas. So if your digestion is kind of sluggish, if you're having to take something to help increase your digestion, try yarrow. You can get it as a tincture. You can get it, you can grow it really easily if you have the ability to have ants walking on my counter here. If you have the ability to grow this, then grow it. I have a ton of it and I'm going to keep growing, and I'll keep putting it into my teas all year long, even in the winter. And the last thing is lemon. So I'm not going to cut this one up, but you can see in here I've used the rind. I was eating tangerines and I just put the peels in my tea that I made yesterday. So with the lemon, you can do the same thing. You can either squeeze a little bit in here, cut a piece of it, or if you're using lemon for something else, just cut the rind off and you can use part of that and put that in your tea as well. So easy peasy. And oh, the last thing, sorry, I forgot this, one of the most important ones. This is fresh mint. We have a lot of this growing in our garden. And mint is, again, so soothing, so cooling. It's really good for a pick-me-up. Instead of having a coffee or a black tea in the afternoon, take a mint, or even just take a piece and you can chew on it. You can rub it between your fingers, smell it. It's really invigorating. It helps, actually, it's like a vasodilator, so it helps open up the blood vessels. So I always put a couple sprigs of mint in there. You can also get it dried if you don't have it fresh. And that's about it. I'll take the top here and I put this on, and I don't do it put it on kind of loosely because I want to make sure there's some air that comes in there. If it's too tight, I feel like it can build up in pressure if it's sitting out in the sun. And then if you have a place, if you are in an apartment, it might be a little bit harder, but maybe you can have a window you can put it in. If you do have the ability to put it outside, I just put it on my doorstep, and this just goes out here for about an hour, sometimes 2, sometimes 3 hours if I forget about it. But I feel like the energy of the sun also helps infuse that sun energy into it, because a lot of our water that we have is sort of dead water. It's been sitting in pipes. It's been stripped of all of its elements, and the chemical structure or the molecular structure of water that we have a lot of times is deadened through the waste treatment system and through filtering. So when we put the water in the sun helps recharge that molecular structure of the water. So your body's energy, your life force doesn't have to go into restructuring that water so it can use it. So this is a win-win situation. So again, I love this. I want to support you in taking care of yourself during these times, but always, and keeping yourself cool, calm, and collected. Keep your nervous system in a relaxed way. Anything we can do, and again, leaning on the plant kingdom, they're here for us. My acupuncture friend told me a long time ago, they're our friends, they're here to help support us, and we can honor them by using them. And I actually always say thank you to them because I'm super grateful that they're here and giving us this life, this healing. And when you start working with them, you start feeling the life force that comes with them. So that is our class for today. Thanks for being here with me. Share it with your friends, and I'll put the link to my email in here so you can see the actual recipe, and have fun playing around with this. You can't mess it up. Just don't worry about that. Just do whatever you like and enjoy yourself. Email me if you have any questions. Thanks, and we'll see you next time.